There is absolutely zero doubt in my mind. Meghan Markle was a semi-expensive yacht girl, and she knows it.
Many of you have seen this picture already. You see that there's Meghan with her Cayuna hat.
When Sarah Ferguson spoke this time, the royal world fell silent. What she said wasn't gossip. Her words were an explosion that shook the palace.
Everything happened because of Fergie.
One single remark rippled through Buckingham Palace, catching Prince Harry completely off guard and leaving Meghan Markle at the center of one of the most explosive scandals the royals had ever seen.
Meghan Markle was introduced by Sarah Ferguson to Prince Harry.
It all began quietly. A light exchange, a knowing smile from Fergie, until a reporter allegedly caught the sentence that would change everything. Meghan was Andrew's first client, a claim that quickly set royal gossip circles on fire.
He said Miss Markle was a close companion to Prince Andrew.
Within moments, the internet caught fire. News alerts flashed, gossip sites crashed, and royal hashtags flooded every feed. Meghan's yacht days wasn't just trending, it was everywhere. In less than a day, the story grew from a whisper to a storm, twisting through timelines and talk shows alike. But here's what no one expected. This rumor didn't crawl out of the dark corners of the tabloids. It came from somewhere much closer to the crown.
Meghan Markle was introduced through Marcus Anderson to Sarah Ferguson.
Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess who's been silenced, cast out, and revived more times than any royal in recent history, was now teasing something far darker. And this time, she wasn't backing away. Behind palace doors, Harry was said to be stunned. Aides were scrambling, and the monarchy's wall of silence began to crumble. What did Fergie truly mean by first client? Why say it now? And what hidden past could possibly link Meghan Markle, the Hollywood star turned Duchess, to Prince Andrew's notorious inner circle?
According to people, she got started her yachting days and she never stopped really. I don't think any of her boyfriends knew about it, but Meghan Markle was known as a hardcore yacht partying person, ready for anything.
This wasn't another routine royal scandal. It was a story powerful enough to rip open the monarchy's deepest scars. As more insiders began to whisper, one question echoed through every corridor in Windsor. Did Fergie let the truth slip, or did she purposely strike the spark that could set the entire palace on fire? Because what unfolded next, no one was prepared to face.
She was a yacht girl. That's right. It's mentioned in the book. Meghan used to entertain as a yacht girl. Now, I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it happened, but I am saying Harry knows it.
It all started like any other royal weekend. Quiet charity lunches, polite smiles, and carefully practiced charm. But beneath the polished surface, tension was brewing. Whispers about an unguarded remark from Sarah Ferguson had already started circling among a few insiders before the public knew a thing. At first, no one took it seriously. Fergie, after all, had survived decades of media storms and knew exactly how one careless sentence could set off chaos. Yet this time, she seemed unfazed. At a private Mayfair gathering, a mix of seasoned aristocrats and watchful reporters, Fergie allegedly dropped a comment that hit like thunder. "People forget," she said with that trademark grin. Meghan's first royal connection wasn't Harry. The crowd froze. One nervous laugh broke the silence. But it wasn't a joke.
And I wonder if Prince Andrew's going to come out and say, "Hey, Harry, I did your wife quite a few times on yachts before you got her."
Those words spread faster than champagne at a royal gala. Within hours, phones buzzed through the palace halls. The phrase Andrew's first client began surfacing in gossip chats, newsroom drafts, and across social media timelines. According to one insider, Harry refused to believe it at first. He'd heard whispers before, every royal had, but this felt different. It came from within the family, from someone who knew Andrew better than almost anyone. What started as idle chatter quickly spiraled into a full-blown credibility storm. By midnight, royal reporters were already mapping timelines, tying Meghan's Hollywood years to Andrew's world of lavish yacht gatherings, events long buried in quiet controversy. Behind the scenes, the palace's PR team went into overdrive, offering only muted no comments while journalists sharpened their stories.
And we also have this. This is Karina Shuliak, Epstein's girlfriend.
And the only times she traveled and went anywhere was with him. And guess who's on the other end with her Panama hat?
Behind the palace's golden walls, an unspoken question lingered. Was Fergie revealing a buried royal secret or getting even for something long past? And if this was revenge, it was just the opening act. Years before the crowns, interviews, and Montecito luxury, Meghan Markle's life was all about ambition, reinvention, and climbing her way through Hollywood's toughest circles. The entertainment world was brutal to outsiders, and Meghan understood that more than anyone. From small acting gigs to charity galas and red carpet moments, she crafted her public image piece by piece, always poised, always intentional. But beneath that calm exterior burned a drive to rise above the countless dreamers who vanished in Los Angeles. Friends from her early years remembered her charm and focus, how she could walk into a crowded room and have every producer notice her. She slipped easily between elite social groups, mingling with business figures, celebrities, and even a few who brushed close to the royal world.
Jeffrey Epstein was also Harvey Weinstein, very prominent. There were members. Meghan Markle was just one of the working girls for Soho House. Call girl, working girl, that's what she was.
Among these exclusive gatherings were the elite yacht parties, lavish escapes where introductions, influence, and sometimes reputations were made or broken. They weren't the sleazy scenes gossip magazines loved to exaggerate, but they were far from innocent. Deals were whispered, favors exchanged, and quiet debts created under the glow of champagne lights. Online rumors claimed Meghan may have attended a few of these events early in her career, hoping to grow her connections among the elite. There's never been solid proof, just scattered sightings, vague sources, and old photos that keep resurfacing online. But that haze of half-truths gave Fergie's remark its sting. By tying Meghan's so-called yacht days to Andrew's world, Ferguson didn't just fuel gossip, she reshaped Meghan's pre-royal story in the public mind. For the tabloids, it was irresistible. The actress who rose from Hollywood to royalty now linked to one of the monarchy's most controversial figures. And whether it's fact or fiction, perception inside the royal circle often cuts deeper than truth, something Fergie has always understood too well.
Prince Andrew, have you noticed how he completely avoids looking at Meghan Markle when she's around him or when she was around him?
To grasp the weight of Fergie's remark, you have to step into the shadow surrounding Prince Andrew, once hailed as a royal hero, now remembered for controversy. For years, he lived a life of privilege, gliding through circles of power and luxury. From extravagant island retreats to private yacht gatherings along the Mediterranean, Andrew embodied the excess of royalty. Those who knew him described a man obsessed with image and influence, surrounded by people who fed both. But the illusion of control collapsed fast. Whispers of his rumored ties to financier Jeffrey Epstein exploded across headlines, followed by a disastrous interview that shattered his once polished reputation. By the time Fergie's alleged comment began to circulate, Andrew was already seen as the monarchy's weakest link, the one no one could publicly defend. That's what made the supposed link to Meghan so explosive. It wasn't just gossip, it was the merging of two of the royal family's most polarizing figures, and it threatened to reopen one of its darkest modern chapters.
And here we have Andrew, with whom looks like Marcus Anderson. This is in 2001, when Meghan Markle would have allegedly been on third year. Meghan Markle hardly spent any time at Northwestern University.
Even the smallest hint that Meghan might have once known people from Andrew's inner circle before meeting Harry was enough to send the tabloids into chaos. For the royal institution, it was a nightmare. Two of the most controversial figures in modern royal history suddenly pulled into one story. Andrew stayed silent, hidden from view, but Fergie's comment dragged his name right back into the spotlight, hanging over Meghan's image like a shadow. When Andrew's name is mentioned, silence never lasts, and when Sarah Ferguson talks, the press listens. At what was supposed to be a quiet private dinner in London, Fergie reportedly leaned closer, smiled in that way only she does, and said a line that froze the room. Let's just say Meghan was Andrew's first client. It sounded casual, maybe even joking, but no one laughed. The energy changed instantly. That short sentence carried heavy implications. Within hours, rumors spread across message threads, newsrooms, and social media. By morning, reporters were already digging for context, debating whether Fergie was making a jab about Meghan's ambition or hinting at something far more personal. The truth didn't matter. The uncertainty was enough to feed the media for days.
And I know what you're going to say. Maybe it was just that one trip. No, there were quite a few trips. There's actually quite a lot of pictures about them. There are 2 pictures that leaked.
When the story broke, Fergie didn't rush to defend herself. She stayed quiet, too quiet, and that silence spoke louder than any denial. Reporters tried to corner her for answers, but she just gave that knowing grin she's mastered over the years, the kind that makes people lean in closer, not walk away. Inside the palace, the reaction was immediate. Staffers panicked, phones rang off the hook, and senior aides scrambled to distance the royal family from whatever storm she'd unleashed this time. But anyone who truly knows Sarah Ferguson understood one thing: she doesn't slip up by accident. Every word, every smile, every headline she creates has a purpose. This wasn't a stumble, it was a move. By dropping Meghan's name next to Andrew's already fragile reputation, Fergie didn't just light a spark, she threw gasoline on it. Overnight, the entire narrative shifted. Meghan's quietness suddenly felt suspicious. Harry's frustration made sense, and the world waited for the Sussexes to say something, anything. But they didn't, and that silence only made things worse. As headlines started to fade, one question refused to die: why did Fergie say it now? In the royal world, nothing happens without reason, and timing is everything. To understand her motive, you have to look back at Fergie's complicated history with the crown, a lifetime of exile, redemption, and reinvention. She survived scandals that would have destroyed anyone else. From tabloid exposés to financial controversies, she's fallen, apologized, and rebuilt her image more times than most could count. Each time the royals turned their backs, she found her way back into the spotlight, smiling, graceful, but always calculating. So maybe this wasn't a mistake at all. Maybe it was another move in the long game Fergie's been playing her entire life.
It could be also happening that the royal family is saying, hey, if you put a book out about Meghan Markle and completely destroy everything and really tell the people how Meghan met Harry.
To some palace insiders, Fergie's outburst wasn't an accident. It was revenge served with royal precision. Years of being treated like an outsider by the very institution that once welcomed Meghan had left scars, and many believed this was her way of settling the score. Others saw it differently. Maybe it wasn't vengeance at all, maybe it was a calculated comeback, a chance to step back into the spotlight after being ignored for far too long. And then there's the third theory, that she was simply doing what she's always done best, playing the media like a violin, stirring chaos but always in control of the tune. There's even talk that Fergie might have been trying to protect Andrew, turning attention away from him by dropping a new bombshell for the press to chase. But whatever her motive, one truth stands above all. Fergie understands timing better than anyone in the royal game. She's endured humiliation, scandal, and exile, only to reappear stronger each time, not by accident, but through her mastery of selective storytelling. She knows how to feed the press just enough to keep her name alive without ever giving them everything. And this time, she might have taken her boldest gamble yet. With one line, she shifted global focus, reopened old royal wounds, and placed herself back at the center of the narrative she once ruled. Whether it was a strategy or a desperate grasp for relevance, Fergie once again proved she thrives in the eye of chaos. But what she hoped to gain from this storm, that's the question everyone in London is still whispering about. By the next morning, Buckingham Palace was in quiet crisis mode. No official statements, no clarifications, just a cold, disciplined silence. Behind that calm front, though, everything was unraveling. Advisors rushed between emergency meetings, phones buzzed non-stop, and royal aides debated how to contain a story that was already slipping out of their hands. Every branch of the monarchy suddenly felt exposed, and no one dared to make the first move.
She'd been a Deal or No Deal girl. She was calling herself a model, and she was starring in a show Suits. She used to charge almost $30,000 per trip, which is why she was making good money. It wasn't on Suits, it was on her yachting trips.
Whispers around the palace painted a tense picture. People close to the Sussexes claimed Harry was torn, embarrassed by how far the story had spread, but careful not to make it worse. He knew that one emotional move could turn a whisper into a wildfire. Meghan, they said, chose to disappear from sight for a while. She skipped events, avoided cameras, and let her inner circle take control. Behind closed doors, her team reportedly spent long hours weighing every possible step, legal or otherwise, trying to decide whether silence or response would hurt less. Outside, the noise was deafening. Social media buzzed with speculation, headlines kept multiplying, and gossip pages treated it like a royal sport. But those close to the couple said it hit differently this time. This wasn't just press hysteria, it felt personal. And what made it worse was the source. Fergie wasn't an outsider tossing rumors from afar, she was part of the royal fabric itself, and that made her words impossible to ignore. The rest of the royals, whispers say, tried to play it calm. Smiles on the outside, panic behind the scenes. Palace staff scrambled to shift headlines toward official duties and charity work, hoping to drown out the noise. But no matter what they did, the phrase Fergie had unleashed clung to the story like smoke, thin, toxic, and impossible to escape.
Harry also knows Meghan was on Jeffrey Epstein's yacht with Prince Andrew.
Behind the palace walls, tension turned into quiet resentment. Some insiders whispered that Fergie had crossed a line, a betrayal that no apology could undo. Others murmured that she might have been cornered, pushed into saying more than she meant. But no matter which version people believed, one emotion connected them all. Fear. Fear that this new storm tied to Meghan's name could reopen the old wounds left by Andrew's past. The royal family survives on control, on silence, on unity. But now that control was slipping through their fingers. As the hours dragged on, Meghan's silence became its own message. The lack of reaction only deepened the tension. By the time morning arrived, the palace was operating in full crisis mode. Aides hurried through corridors, folders tucked under their arms, eyes down, faces tight. Meetings filled the schedule, each one pretending calm while running on pure panic. The golden rule, never explain, never complain, suddenly felt outdated, fragile, and impossible to follow. Sarah Ferguson's comment had detonated across the media like a shockwave. Every outlet was running the story, and once again the royal family found its reputation under siege. Inside private offices, damage control took shape with almost military precision. Drafted no-comment statements piled up as senior royals debated how to proceed. Should they publicly distance themselves or let the chaos burn itself out? But deep down, everyone knew the issue ran deeper than headlines or optics. This wasn't just another PR nightmare, it was a matter of trust, and that, inside the royal circle, is the one thing you can't afford to lose.
In my opinion, in my analysis, and my experience of decades, this kind of analysis, for me, is the real deal. If a photo such as this of Meghan Markle with Prince Andrew years ago surfaces, that will be quite an scandal.
This woman knows that she's in trouble with Fergie because she knows where Meghan Markle's bodies are buried. She knows that Meghan Markle has been yachting. In fact, they had friction because Meghan had originally set her sights on Prince Andrew, but she lucked out with the idiot Harry. Not in a million years did Meghan think that she was going to score Prince Harry. She thought she was going to score Andrew until Fergie put a stop to it.
Inside the palace, calm was only an illusion. Behind closed doors, tension stretched thin between generations of royals. King Charles wanted the storm to fade through silence, the old method that had kept Windsor secrets buried for centuries. But his son, Prince William, saw the danger in that stillness. He'd grown up watching how silence once consumed his mother. To him, refusing to speak wasn't protection anymore. It was surrender. Meetings became chess games. Advisors loyal to Charles argued for restraint, warning that any statement would give the rumor weight. William's team quietly disagreed. They whispered that public trust was eroding, that the monarchy could no longer hide behind marble gates. Every discussion ended the same way. No decision, only unease. Sarah Ferguson, meanwhile, was thriving on the chaos she'd created. Her name was everywhere again. Some aides called her reckless. Others thought she'd become unexpectedly useful, a distraction that pulled attention away from deeper royal issues. For the first time in years, Fergie held leverage, and she knew it. Her smile in recent photos wasn't apology, it was calculation. Charles, ever conscious of dignity, summoned senior staff for what he called a containment briefing. The goal was unity, but unity was cracking. Older courtiers muttered about loyalty, younger ones about survival. Even among the staff, alliances began to shift. Some quietly aligning with William's modern vision, others clinging to the king's tradition of silence. Whispers echoed through the corridors. Was Fergie acting alone, or had someone nudged her to speak? Theories multiplied like reflections in palace mirrors. Every unanswered question became another fissure in the crown's image. For the first time in decades, it felt as if the royal machine wasn't moving in harmony, each cog spinning to its own rhythm. Late one evening, a light still burned in William's study. Those close to him said he looked tired. The kind of tired born from watching history threaten to repeat itself. He'd promised himself never to let another scandal define his family, the way it had defined his mother's final years. Yet here it was again, a whisper turning into wildfire, tradition clashing with truth. Outside, rain swept across London, streaking the palace windows like ink. Inside, decisions were being weighed not by logic but by fear. The monarchy's greatest danger wasn't the press or public opinion, it was the quiet fracture forming between father and son. The crown wasn't breaking, it was dividing, one invisible crack at a time, and as dawn approached, that fracture began to glow, visible now to the world watching from afar. The first hint that the royal storm was far from over. When the first morning papers hit the streets, the narrative had already shifted. What began as whispers about Fergie now morphed into a duel between brothers. The press needed a new angle, and they found it in bloodlines. Headlines drew invisible battle lines. William the dutiful heir versus Harry the restless rebel. It was a story older than both of them, one written in the shadow of their mother. Television panels replayed Diana's archival clips beside new footage of Meghan, drawing comparisons that no royal spokesperson dared confront. The same softness, the same defiance, the same press that once praised then devoured. William watched the coverage in silence, jaw tight. For him, this wasn't history. It was a haunting. The woman the tabloids had broken now became the weapon they used again. Insiders whispered that Charles was unsettled. He had survived scandal by mastering distance, but this felt different. The past was leaking into the present, and Diana's ghost hovered over every headline. The monarchy was no longer fighting rumors. It was fighting memory itself. Even palace veterans admitted privately that the old strategies were failing. Silence no longer preserved dignity. It invited speculation. For the press, the story was gold. Every blurry photo became evidence. Every pause between brothers a declaration. Online, hashtags spun like storms. Commentators called it Diana's legacy repeating, and within hours her name trended worldwide again. The palace, desperate to avoid emotional comparisons, issued polite smiles at charity events while crisis meetings continued behind gilded doors. William's circle urged him to hold the line, to show composure, not emotion, but those close to him knew the strain. He'd built his adult life around restraint, and now that very restraint was being used as contrast to Harry's defiance. History feeds on silence, one aide reportedly warned, and we're starving the truth. At Kensington Palace, photos of Diana still hang quietly in a private corridor. William passes them often, but lately they feel different. Less like memories, more like warnings. The press had learned nothing, and the cycle had come full circle. As one journalist put it off record, every time the crown tries to control the story, Diana returns. The idea terrified the monarchy because it was true. Her spirit lingered not as a ghost in halls, but as a mirror in headlines. Meghan's image, Harry's rebellion, William's composure, all reflections of a past that refused to rest. And somewhere between those reflections, the future of the monarchy trembled, uncertain and unguarded. Outside, flashbulbs erupted as William stepped into a waiting car. The questions shouted louder than the rain. He didn't answer. He simply looked ahead, the son of a legend and the heir to a silence that never truly protected anyone. As the headlines circled like vultures, Meghan's absence became the loudest sound in the kingdom. Weeks passed without a statement, but every silence felt deliberate. Then, without warning, she reappeared. Not in an interview, not in defense, just a single, precisely orchestrated public moment. She stepped out in muted colors, calm smile, hands clasped, a picture of composure. Cameras clicked furiously and the internet lit up. Nothing was said, yet everything was communicated. Royal commentators called it strategic serenity. Others saw it as defiance disguised as grace. Either way, the narrative shifted overnight. Meghan hadn't fought the fire, she'd let it exhaust itself. Her posture, her tone, even her jewelry choice became the new language of control. Analysts dissected her appearance frame by frame, debating whether it was forgiveness or quiet fury. For the first time since Fergie's remark, the palace no longer dictated the rhythm. Meghan did, inside Montecito. Sources whispered about long nights of planning, advisors crafting responses that would never be spoken. Harry reportedly urged restraint, fearing that words would only fuel the inferno. Together, they turned silence into a weapon. While the tabloids demanded reaction, they offered none. The absence became power. Every photo that followed, volunteering, smiling, hands intertwined, reclaimed what gossip had tried to take. In London, that calm terrified the institution. Courtiers muttered that the Sussexes had learned the system's oldest trick and refined it. Appear serene, control perception. Even Charles's team, still clinging to discretion, had to admit the optics worked. The storm that once cornered Meghan now revolved around her, powerless to land a strike. What made it effective wasn't aggression, but poise. Every pause, every choice felt intentional. She'd stopped trying to win sympathy and instead demanded stillness. In a world that thrives on noise, she turned quiet into currency. The press began to lose interest, searching for the next scandal, but audiences didn't look away. They admired the restraint. For Meghan and Harry, this wasn't victory. It was balance. They understood that peace in their world would never come from explanations but from endurance. And so, they stayed still while the headlines moved on. By the time another royal appearance filled the news cycle, the chaos had dulled. But beneath the polished calm, something fundamental had changed. The couple had rewritten the rulebook. The monarchy had always taught silence as submission. Now it had been redefined as control. and in that quiet recalibration of power, the royal game shifted forever. In the weeks that followed, the noise faded, but the echoes stayed. The headlines moved on to new scandals, yet behind palace walls, nothing truly returned to normal. The institution survived as it always does, but it carried new fractures, hairline cracks that whispered of shifting loyalties and lessons not yet learned. The players smiled for the cameras, pretending the fire had gone out, but everyone inside the royal orbit knew the truth. The embers were still burning. Fergie vanished from view again, her silence as suspicious as her words had been explosive. Some believed she'd been quietly warned to retreat. Others said she'd achieved exactly what she wanted: attention, relevance, and a seat back at the royal table, even if only in whispers. Her legacy, like her personality, refused to fade neatly. She had once again rewritten her role from outcast to unpredictable force. For Meghan and Harry, the storm left scars but also clarity. They'd learned the cost of speaking, the weight of silence, and the strange power of perception. What began as a scandal had become a masterclass in control. By refusing to fuel the fire, they'd reminded the world that power isn't always loud. It can move quietly, reshaping everything in its path. Inside Buckingham Palace, however, the mood was colder. Charles's patience had worn thin. William's frustration had deepened, and trust among the inner circle had quietly fractured. They'd survived the latest scandal, but the old illusion of unity was gone. The monarchy had always relied on the myth of endurance, yet even myths can decay from within. Still, the story of the crown endures because the world never stops watching. The same walls that hold its secrets also amplify its shadows. Every rumor, every whisper, every half-smile at a public engagement becomes another thread in an endless narrative. And for those who live inside it, the game never truly ends. It only pauses until the next spark. As the cameras fade and another royal headline rises, one truth remains unchanged. In royalty, there are no clean endings. Every silence hides a story, every gesture a motive, every scandal a seed for the next. Fergie's words may have ignited this chapter, but something new is already stirring behind those palace gates. And when it emerges, the world will be watching, because in the royal game, every move matters and every secret eventually demands its turn in the light.